Out there, 5 out of 6
One night was decent, maybe that was Saturday.
Well, we left early on Saturday, it was there, I mean, we left. 7:15. Closed up.
Okay, we're ready for. Good afternoon. I would like to call to order the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District meeting of the Executive Committee of the Board of Directors. Today's Tuesday, July 5th, and we are having a hybrid meeting with the meeting on Zoom, and it is being recorded. And we'll jump right into our agenda because we have a full one. And I'll ask Mr. Glasson, our director, to call the roll of the few members that are here.
Munson,
Yes, here.
Piedmont Smith, Githens,
Here.
Kevin Quorum.
Okay. So next we have a joint board of directors and citizen advisory committee meeting minutes that we have looked at a couple times, and then they also had to go to the citizens advisory committee for approval, and they have been approved, and they are in our Dropbox. And I'm ready. Are you ready, Commissioner Githens? Approve?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to offer the motion today?
We approved the minutes of the joint board of directors and BAC minutes from January 14th.
No, April.
April 14th, 2022. If there is a correction on the bottom, it has January 14th, 2021 in the footer.
In the footer, yeah.
Sorry.
So we will-
There
we
is a
will-
correction.
We will update the footer,
Okay,
and I will assume that the motion is with that
With
revision.
that revision, yes.
and I will second that motion with that revision. And we are ready to have a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. Next is the Board of Directors meeting minutes, and Ms. Githens, if you would offer a motion.
Well, this is just a review to approve sending them to the board
Yes.
for a vote.
Yes, it's just a review.
And I apologize, I have not had the time, taken the time to review these. This is my bad.
Okay,
Ms. Munson did review them and offer edits that
Okay,
I have reviewed and incorporated into the next version that's not in the packet.
Okay. I look forward to seeing you guys.
okay,
Okay.
and we'll just postpone it.
Well,
What, or,
I trust you.
Okay,
with your
then-
revisions.
okay, then I'll entertain a motion to forward these to the Board of Directors.
I move that we forward the minutes, the board of directors meeting of June 9th, 2022 to the full board for their approval.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Munson,
Yes.
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So next is a report from the controller, which is not applicable, but I would like to ask, how is our interim controller doing? Actually, she's our former
Our
controller.
former controller,
former.
so thankfully it's not all foreign to her.
Yeah.
Now, Ms. Martin had made some changes to the way the reports are put together and presented, and so there is a little bit of a learning curve there. And today was her first time starting working on the month end and getting cash flows together, and but she seems to be getting it figured out, and we should have those together in time for the board package.
Excellent.
Since it's bi-weekly now instead of weekly, that makes it too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
A little less.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to worry about if any
Signatures.
claims to pay this week, and so we can devote the week to month end and getting everything ready for the board meeting.
Right. So on the controller, would it be appropriate to discuss a time for an interview for a controller candidate?
As long as we do not identify anybody by name, it's okay to note that we have an identified candidate that the committee has expressed an interest in interviewing, and we need to establish a time for an executive session to conduct that interview.
And there were two that were possible. Is that right?
Yeah, and I don't think that we can do those now because of the advertising requirements.
Okay.
So we're probably, I can, if I submit to the HT tomorrow, possible to get it published Friday, but I can't guarantee that. They usually want 3 days notice. It's Tuesday already. So, so the safe bet would be to be looking at next Wednesday at the earliest.
Next Wednesday at the earliest. And do we know about the candidate schedule?
Do not. I did email the candidate this morning to let them know that the executive committee was interested in interviewing, checked availability to be able to do a virtual interview, and have not heard back yet. But I also figure if a candidate truly wants the job, they will make themselves available when the committee is available for an interview.
What do I have on my calendar? Oh, never mind. Never mind. That's too many meetings. I am free probably from about 11:30 to 3:30
On the Wednesday.
Wednesday, and I know that that's commissioner's meeting day.
And I never know when I'll be finished, and I also have a 3 o'clock stormwater meeting that day, of course.
I think that's a bad day for you.
Well, that next day isn't that much better, but I could just tell them that I have to be done, say, at 1 o'clock, and I can do a 1 or 2 o'clock meeting that day. But I'm kind of slammed that day already.
And not that we all want to work 24 hours a day, but if we're going to do it virtually, evenings are a
Right,
possibility
but
as well.
I have something that evening.
Me too.
But
I've
Okay.
been
we
to
could
like
do it now.
Monroe
I could
board
do-
meeting.
Because on the 14th, after our solid waste,
That would be ideal.
we'd already be here. We
Well,
can walk in here
We could,
to do the meeting. do the
Yeah.
interview.
Do that.
If that works. We're generally done by 5:30.
I mean, this will be assuming everything it looks good today. July is generally the first meeting where the board sees the
The
proposed budget.
so I think it better be
6.
6. We will get a Coca-Cola if it's 7 enough time.
If the candidate responds that for whatever reason, they are unable or don't want to do a Zoom meeting, are we comfortable inviting them to the courthouse at 6 p.m.?
I am.
Okay.
As long as you can get it scheduled so that they're allowed to come in, you know. Oh, she should attend the board meeting.
Well, but then that becomes public.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
And
And
if
that is the candidate's decision if they want their name out there publicly or
Right.
not.
Well, I was gonna say, if she has your number that she can text you, I can always let her in. If that thing too, we've got the
Right.
ability to get the bill.
And I'll, I assume that at work today, and that's why I haven't heard back, and hopefully we'll hear back something this evening, and if it's all positive, then we will get it all figured out, and if we're going to do in person, we will make sure that they can access the building.
And that date is
July 14th.
July 14th at 6 p.m., right?
Mhm.
On my calendar.
If that's not possible, I could do Friday sometime between 9 and 11, but that's the only time on Friday.
I can do Friday 9 to 11 too. If we want to offer an
If that's,
alternative.
That is an obvious second choice, correct?
Yeah.
I wish there was a way on my phone to have it be. I did write down alternate.
I should possible.
As long as you got them blocked off to hear back from me.
They're blocked.
They're blocked. It's blocked.
Okay. So I think that concludes our controller business for today. Let's jump into review of budget proposals. And I was so glad to get all the spreadsheets from our director, because they were very clear, and I didn't call you about any questions because I had none.
Hopefully the numbers all match from one spreadsheet.
I know, I didn't do that. That's not my job.
I tried and I apologize that the reason that there are not executive committee minutes in this board package, I thought that the budget was
Absolutely.
much more important to get done last week because I was on vacation the week before.
Yep.
And our last month, our meeting was an hour and 45 minutes. It's going to take a while.
Is that the one I wasn't at?
I thought it was the one that had been canceled. That must have been the one before because I have a recording of a meeting that's an hour and 45 minutes. So, no, that's the one. Isabel left early. And you had me send her the meeting recording so that she could review.
Yes.
And I forget exactly what it was.
And
That
it's an executive.
yeah, that's the executive committee meeting. And now I can't even remember the issue that we thought. Well, I think I did some preliminary budget discussions. Kind of gave you a heads up of some of the things that are impacting what we're about to look at.
I'm really glad that you're writing in increase.
We don't know where we're going to be.
Well, but also, well, theirs don't fall under, do they fall under the same guidelines as the county?
No, actually, they have a reference date for cost of living that's slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, we use,
And so they do theirs.
Yeah,
we do
that's what I'm
ours.
saying. I'm
yeah,
glad.
and the CPI index that we've historically used, I included in the packet.
Right.
And it's over 8% every month of this year. And I think that normally historically we had done January to January, and it was last year or the year before because there was such a significant jump between January and May that we used the April or May increase because it was like 1.5% in January and 5 point some percent in April or May when we started preparing the budget. So, and so, but for the purposes of this year, I don't really think it matters which time frame we use. It's through the roof.
Yeah.
Well, but we also last year, when everybody was pretty, what, 15.
Last year, yeah, last year.
It was our landmark year for $15 an hour.
Yes.
So,
And
okay.
well, I mean, I guess we'll just get into it.
So
I was also pleased to see the extra position for the halftime, the Seinfeld compliance that we had asked for.
yeah,
And the reason all that works, and the reason it was a scramble to get this together last week, Scott's not coming back.
and I was going to ask about that. And
And
are we going to be advertising for
I would prefer not to.
just
I've talked with Joey and I've talked, well,
okay,
talked.
this is recorded, so
Yes, I know. And I'm going to put it, this is my proposal to the board, and this is what this budget is based on.
okay, You've talked to one of our employees.
Joey and I have talked extensively about this. We were talking theoretically about this a couple of months ago. But I think over the past 6-7 months, Joey and in the acting capacity has proven himself more than capable.
I think we didn't doubt it. I think we doubted him.
And my proposal that he is agreeable to is that we will just leave him in that position permanently. And then what is in this budget eliminates the assistant operations director position, fills the vacant truck driver position, and then adds the second, as indicated in the memo, the second community outreach, for lack of a better term, the second outreach position. We don't know exactly what that's going to be and what the title will be at this point, as well as a laborer position that the compliance department had requested, that we've talked about internally, that position will split time between the household hazardous waste department, where they've had to assume some additional duties that our vendors are placing upon us because of economics and things that they're changing. They've had to make cutbacks on their end. So we're now having to do more of the legwork and packaging and preparing the materials that we send to them that they used to do when they got to them. Things like removing valves off aerosol cans, taping all the batteries.
It just takes time.
It takes time. So it's a labor position. And at $16.50 an hour, I think is what I budgeted at.
Are you looking at a budget right now?
I was looking at the cover sheet that he did.
Right now, I'm just looking at the memo right now that
Okay.
highlights some of this.
Some page
Yeah.
But again, the biggest, for me, the most significant part of all of that is the elimination of the assistant operations director position.
So-
And that's that in addition to the growth quotient that was also finalized late last week.
Yes, but it was, and we have it.
It was, and
It's
so
5%. That's what the state.
Yeah.
So that's 5%.
that's what they came back with. So
Well, 5%, and I have to tell you, the math that goes into calculating the growth quotient takes into it's they didn't decide it. The formula decides it, and the formula is based on an average. It's an 8-year average of growth,
I'm not sure.
and things have their ups and downs, and we are going to then start having a lower growth quotient, I think, because of the formula. And I haven't checked that out with the Purdue professor, who is the real forecaster. But
But it's the growth quotient and the elimination of that position is what makes the
these other
additional
positions-
staffing positions possible.
Yes. So is the outreach person full-time or part-time?
I have them budgeted full-time, $19 an hour.
And that's,
Don't ask me how I came up with those wages.
well, you do by looking internally
we looked at- we
who's
looked-
getting what.
We
and
looked at what
their
others
duties
were making and yet what I assume the duties of this position will be in relation to other people's duties.
So looking at this, you don't have an assistant operations director. And who has responsibility for operations in your absence?
In my absence, well, right now it would be Joey and then Connie. It would be the operations director and the controller would be the two people that would be next in line. And I think that when Scott first started having issues and was out of the office, Connie, with her experience and the amount of time that she'd been at the district, she was the person that fell on. I would say bringing in a new controller, I would put Joey, I guess, the second rung on that ladder, a new controller the third, just until we get that person comfortable and up to speed with how the district operates. But no, that was, 2 weeks ago when I was off, we made sure that Joey was there all week. How it works.
And I was not paying very much attention because nobody was filling in for me except I just was unable.
And then the other, and then quick sidebar on all of this, that, because we're still, Scott has a personal representative with a power of attorney that I'm working with right now, and we're still finalizing what the actual separation date is going to be. He is retiring, and so
Is that good for him in terms of pension?
doesn't really have an impact. He's not old enough for under our plan to start drawing on the retirement, but we're trying to work with them and put him in a position to have continuity of benefits with regard to his disability, being able to take on the COBRA for the health insurance. It is. But I think they're looking at some other options so that COBRA is a short-term solution, or a stopgap measure for them or for him.
Is he looking into declaration of disability?
Not sure that I'm at liberty to discuss
You
that
don't
here.
have to.
You don't have to. This is recorded after the.
So, but we look out for our employees.
Right. So, but given that, but the fact that he is still technically an employee, we have not formally separated yet, but we do have the truck driver position vacant on the books and budgeted. And I would like to go ahead and, at least for staff purposes internally, formally make Joey the permanent operations director, and fill that truck driver position. That's what Joey says that he needs in order for him to do that and eliminate that. So I want to say that is something that I can do the way things are set up right now, because that position is budgeted, because the operation director is not directly under board purview per se. But I don't think that we can officially eliminate the assistant operations director. The board has to do that, eliminate that position.
Are you going to bring a resolution to the board?
Well, I'm going to work with Mr. Baker and make sure that we formally do that, or we do that the correct way.
Right.
But I guess the question here tonight is, are the two of you comfortable with me moving forward with that now? Or do you want to wait and talk with, at least just with the staffing, filling the truck driver positions and making Joey, or do we want to wait till that formal separation date happens? Do we want to wait until the board has a chance to weigh in?
You have two people filling the same position, so I think you're gonna have to wait till the formal separation date.
That's kind of my gut on it as well.
Because you can't have two people in the same position.
I mean, he's
He'll still be acting.
he's acting at this point.
So, but you can fill the truck driver position.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's gonna be-
because it's budget is and it's budgeted.
Yeah.
I guess the other purpose of it is that, for the sake of staff, many of which are, somewhat in the dark on Scott's, what he's been going through. I mean, they just know he's not at work. We can't share a whole lot of information with them. And I think it puts Joey in a little bit of a tenuous position with some things he wants to do and you know, some changes that he thinks will benefit the district that he's hesitant to do because he's not the boss.
Yeah. All in due time.
Okay.
So,
I appreciate the fact that he's thinking about new things.
me too.
I think he has a lot of good ideas that will prove beneficial to the district as we move forward.
Sometimes you think. And we're just lucky because having all these people moving around on us is just, and county government too, it's just like,
That's, yeah, the last few years have been crazy.
we'll be lucky if she can remember who's doing what. If you forget, it's
We
completely.
lost our IT director. He's gone as of last Friday.
Eric?
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah, are you, no, you can tell us after the meeting.
No wonder he didn't respond by email.
And then we're losing our longtime director.
Yes.
Hiring.
What's her last date, do you know?
July 15th.
July 15th.
So, yeah, some big changes for all of us.
Yeah. And they do have a new technical director, and that is Greg Stone. But doesn't he also have his other job too?
No,
Okay.
slotted somebody else into the lead manager.
Oh, who's the fleet manager?
I don't know if it's been made public yet, so
Oh,
I'll wait on that too.
I guess then the other budgeting personnel issue that we probably need to review are the increases for the two landfill and compliance positions. The landfill and compliance director and the inspector. Pretty substantial increases for them, but that is as they've done a lot of legwork and presented to me that and
13 and 18.
yeah, and that
Percent increase.
the dollar amounts that will put the director at $54,000 and the inspector at 47,000 and some change. But we looked at city and county. The inspector was pretty easy to draw some comparisons to. Now the director position was kind of hard.
Not every county has a landfill.
Well, yeah, not every county has a landfill, and the city and the county don't really have, you know, truly comparable positions. But we just kind of looked at the level of responsibility, and I think that the mid-50s is a good range based on what we've seen the city of Bloomington and Monroe County paying comparable levels of responsibility, and then. Both the city and the county, the inspector type positions, are in the mid to upper 40 range. So I think we can justify, those increases. So that is in there as well, and I want to make sure that people are aware of that. We'll obviously highlight that when we go through the budget presentation. Yeah, and I think it's for me, it's focusing on the dollar amount, not the percentages, because the percentages can look out of whack based on where they are now. And somebody could say that's almost a 20% increase, but that brings them in line with it's the dollar amount.
Your homework.
So yes,
So that's what
yeah, we did try to pretty much focus on City of Bloomington and Monroe County positions, and not what Brown
because
County's doing and
Cost
what
of
Green.
living is so different
Right.
here
Right.
than elsewhere.
But I'm discouraged about that 5% increase we're talking about for
Yeah.
our employees.
And then
But that's not it. Oh, the 5%.
It's county.
No, that's not a decision. It's 5% growth quotient. So we can only increase the the budget or the levy by
That's the
5%.
property, yeah, the property tax.
So it just,
Okay.
it,
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
okay, it gets into other
But you can, yeah.
possibilities,
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay,
All right.
now I'd like to look at the Excel files as you go,
Okay.
as you
So
start
I
this.
do have a question,
Uh-huh.
a couple of questions
Sure.
too, but before we get to the Excel files. If that's okay. Under page 18, under other services and charges, what under other professional for $121,700, what does other professional cover?
Other things.
That's why it's such a
Well,
big
that's- I mean-
number.
Um, I'm sorry, let me pull a different file up.
Is that in one of your Excel files?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
I woke up at 4.
I woke up at 3.
Other professional service. So, $114,000 of that is specific for the landfill.
Oh, okay. So I have
That's-
a recommendation.
Uh-huh.
When you can always footnote.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think your executive committee of board will be the ones who have close eyes on this more than other board members. But if you would just footnote that with that information
I
about the
agree.
landfill,
We can,
requirements for the landfill, nobody's turning this into
we
a.
can do that.
Party place.
And it is only a $13,000 increase from the previous year, but that is the Anderson Excavating and Lawn Care. I'm sure from claims, a name you're familiar with, all the erosion control,
Right,
maintaining stormwater ditches, fixing leachate pop-ups, all that stuff comes out of there. Gosh, what all? It's been a while since I've worked at the landfill.
I just,
You are
But yeah,
forgetting
but
too
I mean,
soon.
yeah, I mean, the bulk of that is, and that is, you know, the maintenance of the landfill, the
Okay.
closed landfill,
Okay.
keeping us in
yeah.
compliance.
That's separate
So,
from the leachate. Yeah.
but that is separate from the leachate hauling, because that has its own line item, separate from our laboratory fees. I mean, it is, yeah, I mean, and
But it's
the thing to keep in mind is that,
ponds and grounds.
yeah, I mean, you know, that,
Okay, no,
that
I just wondered
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
didn't know.
that landfill costs us a little over $300,000 a year to keep it in order and do what we're required to do.
So I have a question for you, but I don't want to bring it to the meeting of the whole board because it could be a stupid question.
There's no such thing.
Let's see, but there's a pond out there and it gets green slime on top, also known as algae. And are you allowed to put any fish in the pond to take care of the algae, which has to be
Which pond?
removed? I don't know.
There's 2 ponds out there.
Okay. Which,
So-
do they both have algae or just one?
One is it's not natural, it's man-made, but one is a depression left over from the closure work where they took all of the clay to do the cap on the closure. That's just something I'd
It's just a
approve.
hole in the
It's
ground that
not-
never got
it's-
backfilled.
It's not anything we have to worry about,
Oh.
sample out of or any of that. Then you have the leachate pond, which is when you hear Lee at the meetings talking about
Right, that
algae and vegetation.
That's what I'm
um, You know, it's a good question. I don't know that there's anything that, from a regulatory standpoint, that would prevent us from doing that.
but let me tell you, we have 2 ponds and we have grass carp. They don't cost very much. And we have grass carp pets that take care of the algae. And I would highly recommend an organic
Yeah.
approach.
Well, we have to.
Yeah.
Because
I
anything,
mean, but you have labor involved.
But the leachate, they have civic.
well, there are turtles in there.
There's turtles. I bet you could be
But
grass carp.
the only thing with fish, and I don't, this may be a nonsense worry, a stupid worry, but when we're treating, you got a hard suction coming out of that pond. You got a 3-inch suction pipe. And if one of those fish got in there and hit our pump, we'd have a problem. So, well, turtles haven't been a problem yet, but it is, and and maybe that
Is the suction pipe green?
black.
No, not green.
Oh, screen. No,
No, it's not.
it's a perforated pipe with an open end.
That would be, that would be a question for the people who manage
Yeah.
grass.
How strong is the suction? How big are the grants?
I'd have to
Well,
look
you
at the
can
specs on the
get
pump.
grass carp of any size you want. Except to lose it. I mean, some grass carp are.
Oh, yeah, my parents, they had tried some koi.
I think if nothing else, it's worth investigating.
If when we want to do something, and they can go have part of their life somewhere else and then come to the leachate pond.
Started the non-leachate pond.
Yeah, move the non.
I don't know that you would want to take things that have lived in that pond for any period of time and put them in your backyard or anything.
Oh, no,
like
no,
that,
we're
not
not
in your
talking-
No,
pond.
not that kind, vice versa.
Oh.
Put them in your backyard pond and then move them over to the.
Well, once they're at that leachate pond, I think they need to stay there.
Okay, so I have more questions too.
Yeah.
Will the new outreach director need a vehicle? And is that in here?
Well,
There is one vehicle.
well, I tell you what, we had money budgeted this year for a vehicle, and then used car prices went through the roof.
Right.
We're not getting a vehicle this year. Not for what we have budgeted. Particularly, I mean, for me, I was really looking at, trying to find some sort of a hybrid a vehicle, and I don't want to replace it with another gas vehicle. Let's try to do something and do a little more walk the walk. And those are even worse. So,
And it's gonna stay that way.
Yeah,
for quite a while.
but there are hybrid vehicles out there of a size that would be appropriate to replace that butterfly mobile that have comparable cargo spaces. They're out there. So no, it is not. I really don't think it's going to happen this year, and there is not one in the budget. But we also have, and again, not the ideal vehicle. We have 3 pickup trucks that the operations director and 2 landfill and compliance positions use that are not always in use. Now, depending on schedules, it may not work to try to share those trucks between the 4 positions.
Well, but you get a good position. Because you're adding a half ton clients. I'm not convinced. Yeah, out of the landfill.
Well, yeah, but I don't. Well, I guess I know I shouldn't make that assumption about who would be in the office and out of the office at a given time.
Well, it's gonna be a vehicle management.
Well, it is, and it may or may not be manageable without an additional vehicle. So, yeah. No, and I think that it's a legitimate question, concern. I know it is not in there. But I think with where vehicle prices are right now, I'm afraid to try to budget for that.
It's just,
They are what they are.
my car's going to shop tonight. I'm
and-
desperate to get a new one, but I can't.
And it may be,
Yeah.
and maybe it's something that, we need to just bite the bullet and do an additional appropriation when we find the right vehicle and jump at it.
We might do. So don't keep your eyes closed on this.
No,
Because
they,
we do have a lot of money in our savings
No, eyes have been open all year and I've
Okay.
watched those prices go like this, then they came down a little bit, then they went back up a little bit.
So, where is the reimbursement to employees if they use their own vehicle? What line is that?
Travel,
Travel.
43230.
And that
So
is,
you're on the comparison spreadsheet, it's line 48,
oh,
the
I'm not on
expense
the
sheet.
spreadsheet.
Okay,
I was looking at the same thing you are. Line 48 is what?
of the expense sheet comparison. Here's, there's just a hard copy of the budget proposal. That's,
I
I
have one
have
other
it.
question. How much of an increase was it written in for the leachate? I'm asking that because we're expecting more extreme weathers. They're talking about, wetter springs.
25,000.
25,000, so 25% increase.
No, yeah,
I see gravel
because
now.
it was at 100,000, yeah.
Okay,
And
I
you-
just wanted to make sure it was enough, that's all.
Okay, so Tom, there's no increase in travel. You have plenty of left over for this year, and that's why you didn't increase it.
Yeah, and you can, there's on the comparison
Okay,
sheet.
That's okay.
Okay, yeah, you can go back through and
And
we
see
have
that.
never come close
Okay.
to
So,
expending
because
that
we have
budget line.
2 employees that will be traveling.
And I recall, and it came up at a board meeting once before, and Scott and I are the ones that tend to do the most of the traveling in our own vehicles. We just never turned in miles. We just didn't.
Well,
With the price of gas, I think you.
Well,
I think-
gas was not $5 a gallon then.
right. If it's a short trip, there's that, but I really,
Now, our policy says that you cannot be reimbursed for travel within the county. And so that may be something we need to revisit.
oh, you gotta be
Definitely.
kidding. Oh,
Definitely.
would you put that top line? We've got to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
And to do that for this year too, because of the price of gas.
Yeah.
So Lee Baker, another good one.
yes, please.
And there should be a log that every person keeps for their business travel for the district.
Well, we have an established mileage log sheet
Okay.
that all the district vehicles have in them, and everybody
And
logs
that's the
it.
district.
And
vehicle.
right, and then if somebody uses their, nobody, I mean, we don't have anybody that, on a daily or weekly basis is guaranteed to have to do something in their car. So when somebody does have to travel, because we don't worry about in-county reimbursement at this time, which can change, and then we would maybe need to change the record keeping of it. But
Mhm.
at this point, if I took my car, went up to Indianapolis to an association meeting or something, I would just get one of those mileage logs, fill it out with my personal car, and submit that to the controller for reimbursement.
I agree with you. Change it as soon as possible.
I used to do that and know how much it's going to add up.
And not necessarily at the district or with current employees, but based on some of my past experiences, you also, as part of that, you need to have caveat in there that there's a company vehicle available, you take the company vehicle.
Absolutely.
You don't just hop in your car and go because you can get 55 cents a mile or whatever.
Well, some places have private Uber.
Yeah. I mean, but you run into situations where
Oh, no, or you
I don't
can
like to
shop.
drive that vehicle, or I don't, well, too bad. That's,
I've asked my questions about budget stuff, so
Okay.
thank you.
did you have any, or you want me to go through the things that I was prepared to highlight for you?
You can highlight and
Okay. So, I mean, just looking at, at some of the other, big reductions, that also contributed to what we're doing with staffing and whatnot. The general operating supplies came down 17,000 because there's money budgeted this year for new signage everywhere with the rebranding expectation, and so that should be hopefully be done this year, and we won't need that money next year.
You have to be careful of that because it doesn't get wrapped up this year that you encumber.
Well, we have to have, we'll have to be far enough into it to at least get some quotes from some companies to be able to encumber that money.
So, I mean, once you get past that, once you get into July, you're already.
Well, yeah, and as we need to get the rebranding subcommittee back together when Ms. Piedmont Smith gets back into town, and we really need to get going on a logo and a slogan and what we need.
Have you identified anybody?
Professional. I've talked with 3, and they've prepared to relay information at that next meeting. They've all taught me, well, here's what I would expect or need from you to start designing. They're all local.
They're all local.
They're all here locally.
So is one of them Valerie Pena?
No. That name doesn't. Valerie Pena.
She used to be at the district in some capacity when it was just getting started.
I don't know, given her position at IU,
She has some consultants, yeah. And if you need any other local names or just input or discussion, Mike McAfee is a good person.
Talk to him.
You already talked to him.
His budget's well beyond. His rebranding budget is. But he did have some good information about when they went through the process and what their interactions with their consultant that they used. But right now, I mean, I've not really talked dollar figures with any of them. It's more about what do you need from us so that you can tell us how much it'll cost to have you do this. Because that's where we are. We need to get quotes and estimates from somebody and then say, okay, you're the one, let's make it happen. Now the other, I guess we go back to revenue. We forgot one revenue item. There is, where did it go? Right sheet here. Oh, I don't, but I can do that. People, why you always want to follow along? So page 21 of the packet. We do have under the category 6 other income, 10% increase in the host fee based on tonnage estimates from Rumpke.
Yeah, because the estimates are going up, or is there?
Well, that assumes that the current transfer station will maintain their customer base, and if they don't, then it's going to go to we're going to get it either way. But Rumpke has provided a tonnage estimate of material they're currently moving out of Monroe County that they would divert to a new facility if they had their facility open, and it's Monroe County generated waste. It's not a whole lot, but we did want to try to account for that. Now, the other thing on that, I think that we learned when Bedford Recycling proposed a facility, Republic seems to be looking for a way out, and I cannot tell you how many times they've had a representative call me and inquire about the status of our agreement with Rumpke. And I said, there's no facility open. It doesn't really matter at this point. We just have to have an agreement in place when they open the doors. But I'm concerned that no matter what we put in place with them, they're going to tear it apart and try to find a way to say that it violates. place with them. So, and what that leads to, I don't know. Potentially, legal costs for us to fight, and then, are they going to decide that we violated it and just stop paying us till a judge says they have to? Would we even win that case? These are unknowns. So I don't really know what all that, what's going to happen with that, but but I'm not inclined to rush into a host fee agreement with Rumpke until we have to, because I'm confident that the public's going to try to find a way to use that as a tool. Yeah. I don't know.
So do you have any advice from anybody as to what would be the best course? We could just let it expire and go to Rumpke.
Well, the host fee doesn't expire until 2024.
Oh.
Now but that is the other side of it. Our transportation and recycling agreement with Republic does expire May 1st of next year. That will have to go out for bid this one. Who knows? We currently have expenses budgeted for recycling processing fees, because that's what our current contract calls for. Because, will we still be paying under a new agreement, regardless of who it's with? Will we get money back? Will we be paying more? We don't know. And one other, because the facility is not up and running, but we kind of talked when the facility was being pitched by Rumpke. They want glass. They want this facility to be a glass hub. The glass that we collect is not currently covered by any of the agreements with Republic. It's not. We just have a local hauling company that says this is how much it'll cost if you want us to haul it. You have a vendor in Indianapolis that says this is what we'll pay you for it. So I would assume that when the facility opens, all the glass is going to go down there. That's going to reduce our hauling costs. We've not made that change in this budget because I don't know what it'll be.
We don't
We don't know when it starts.
Right.
We don't know when it'll start, and there could be so many other expenses
Right.
coming up. I'm not.
Right. And the other on the revenue side, we didn't even look at any of that with the revenue for the glass.
Yes.
But those are things that we know that are out there that are probably going to occur that will impact the numbers that are in this budget.
But we will have a budget in place
Right.
before any impacts come.
Right.
We'll just be living with our 23 budget, and we'll do the best we can.
Right. And if things come up, if things come up short, we know we have cash reserves. We're certainly not going to be so short that we're going to exhaust cash reserves. But the host fee is the one that concerns me. I think everything else, I think in the end will come out as a wash or to our benefit. The host fee is the one that concerns me. Because even if we win whatever arguments there are out there, it's going to cost us money to win that argument.
Wasn't there a clause in there that said that with 60 days notice, we could
Terminate.
I've mentioned that to them. If you want out, opt out. It's in there.
And if we want out,
Right.
if we have a more, let's say, if we have a more secure deal, it may not necessarily be more lucrative. It might
more
be
appealing.
more secure.
So, right, yeah. And so there is, we can always wash our hands of it if we want to.
I do have one question about your spreadsheet too. As I look,
Which one?
the one on page 21.
Okay.
When we're just looking at, you've got in that same category of other income. You have interest on investment, and you're not showing anything at all.
Yes, that has,
I mean, it hasn't generated very much income at all.
well, but this is the operating fund. The only investment that we have is the trust fund. This is not interest off the bank accounts. That's something new, and we're still,
Okay.
that's still kind of being incorporated into our ledger and our accounting process. And
All right.
that was one of,
Yeah, I want us to get to there.
that was one of Connie's questions on the cash flow, because they're on the cash flow that you've been seeing, there's not a revenue line for interest. So we're and thankfully, Miss Martin is left on good terms and is still responding to us and helping us navigate through all of this. But that's one of the things that we want to do, is start adding that revenue line for interest on the accounts. But that's different than the interest on the investments.
Okay.
That probably needs to come out of there, because that's related to the trust fund. And this is the operating fund. They're separate piles of money.
So that we're being good stewards.
And it's good to know that.
Yeah. So, thank you. Anything else that you want to highlight?
That's what the other one, page 23 of the packet, the liability line, line number 56 it's like the second line down on that page. That's our insurance stuff. The pollution prevention policy just renewed in the past year, so it's not due again until 2024.
I'm on 23 what line?
Liability.
What number line?
$56.
It's the second
I
line
see it,
down.
I see it.
Yeah. So that was another, significant reduction that helped
Yeah.
make some of the other things possible. But, that is $40,000 that we're going to have to find in 2 years. Well, we keep investing our money. We have contracts and renewals up that are going to be happening next year that we'll see where we wind up. So, we also maybe tightening our belt a little bit in 2024. And that's something, and we never really figured out how to do it, given the way that our, the public budgeting process worked. But Ms. Martin had talked about, and I think that you and her really talked about, since that's a 3-year insurance policy, if it's $30,000, how do we budget 10,000 this year, 10,000 next year? And and that's just not something we ever really figured out how to do. But that requirement's not going to go away. And I think when we get a new controller in place, that's something that we need to start investigating again.
So
And
that it's built in.
It's evened out.
so then instead of every 3 years coming up with $40,000+, we're just absorbing a third of that every year. Yeah. And is it as simple as that, establishing an escrow account off to the side that every year $20,000 goes into it, and that's what we pay that premium out of? So, but that's, if I think about it and I remember, that is something I can talk with our DLGF rep about next Thursday morning when they
Yeah.
look at this budget and say, hey, what if we started doing this in the future?
But and it makes sense.
That's really,
Because you're evening out.
Right.
that's really good. Thing. So our meeting is next Thursday afternoon, right? And the LGF in the morning. And an interview to top it off.
If the person can.
May have to run across the street after all that. Have a beverage.
They have delivery.
That would be a good one.
I mean, those I think are the big ticket items. You asked about the leachate disposal. And, there's not, obviously lots of other things went up and down, but not as, not in as significant of amounts.
I was looking at the liability and I see what's been done over the years. We've just put the full amount in and
To
then,
the year that
Right.
has to pay. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then the actual is always,
that was something that was started years ago. Where they just left it in there, and it's, sometimes it was money that could be used for other things, but most of the time, that's a big chunk of money that contributed to our reversion amount that we experience every year, and everybody wants to know, where does all this come from?
I see.
Say it isn't so.
say it's not so. I saw one too
Page
now.
25. Line 34333. I don't think we have a camp disposal fee.
Oh, that's the one I saw too. It's no plant disposal. I saw that. I did.
Sorry.
Now, Mary does take clothes for some of the reuse stuff
But
she
we don't
has.
dispose of them.
No, and we don't charge for it.
I'm terrible at proofing my own work. I gotta tell you.
Well, you
Well,
guys,
you're not supposed to proof your own work.
you look at the minutes every month, you see how good I am at proofreading and double checking and correcting. And I guess the real question that I have in all of this is, is the board as a whole going to be comfortable with the pay increases?
Well, they come from the cost of living.
Well, they do, but sometimes,
Sometimes you can't.
historically, and not necessarily anybody in this room or on the board now, but some board members have balked when we've tried to do something that's drastically different than what the city and county do.
Well, I can't tell you what the county is going to do without me consulting with him, because it's pretty much in flux.
I've already said it. I am fine with what you proposed, and I will be send that to the full board. I think that you're able to explain what you proposed. I think also that with the current job situation, we have something like a 1% unemployment rate in this county right now. People can jump job to job. And I
Better
value
take care of our employees.
I value the experience that our people have. And
Absolutely.
I think that there are things that we do to keep.
Not that we are the perfect workforce or work environment, but by and large, we have a good workforce.
Yeah.
And we have good people doing a good job.
So I will tomorrow morning get with Tim and see what information I can get just to prepare for our meeting. I don't want you to make any changes. I just want to have that in front of me. And see, with the range of consideration. That we're all looking at the same cost of living, and people just say, can we afford to do that? I don't think.
And I guess one other thing that just jumped into my head
but the solid waste district continues to have year to year, surplus keeps growing. I mean, we see that with that graph every month.
Yeah.
So I'm very comfortable with saying we can absorb this.
Now, absolutely.
And
Right.
there is a cost to losing people. There's a training, loss of knowledge,
All
just
and
so
huge
many
stuff.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and I would also, I mean, I would, add on to that and say that, that we now have this 5-year plan in place and all the employees are seeing all these ideas and things that we want to do. And yeah, we want to try to move forward to that, but at the same time, let's take care of the people that put us in a position to do this.
Mhm.
So. The last thing I forgot, health insurance.
Oh, yeah, I saw that nice number in there.
And that the 13% is over the past few years, that's what we've been facing. But I will say, I've already had extensive conversations with JA Benefits about different coverage options and what can we do to minimize the premium impact on employees. Looking at some health savings account options. And if one of for me, one of the things that if we go that route that I would like to do would be to, if we're going to go that route, I wanted to be saving the district some money so that we can seed those accounts for the employees. I need to check with Mr. Baker on legality or something, but I mean, yeah, but if we're, if we're going to make this change, which is going to increase some of the out-of-pocket expenses, but we can put $500 to $1,000 in everybody's health savings account to jumpstart it. I mean, it's, most of those options for people that, for whatever reason, need and require medical services, it's going to be more out-of-pocket expense for them. But that's going to save the district money and save everybody money on premiums. There's really no other way to make that savings without increasing the out-of-pocket cost. On a pool, we're such a small pool, we just don't have any options. But it's, every year we give employees a raise that's eaten up by their health insurance.
I know, that happens everywhere.
Yeah, when you increase salary by 8% and you have a 13% increase in your healthcare costs, yeah.
So
Yeah.
all I see is the line in the Excel file.
On
That's
the health insurance,
yeah,
Page 22.
on page 22.
and I'm looking at the Excel file on my computer, so I can read it.
So if you're on the expense comparison tab in the comparison spreadsheet.
I'm on the expense detail.
Okay, yeah, expense detail sheet. So in the first category, personnel services.
Yeah.
Set about 8th line down.
Yeah.
41330.
Yeah, I got health insurance, and it's an increase of
$50,000, but that's 13%.
13%. Yeah. For us, and what is it for the employee?
It would be comparable
Comparable, is it?
because it's an 80-20 premium split. So I mean, it's there,
So we're covering 80.
So I don't see, is there something in here then for the HSAs?
No, we don't have those numbers, and that's part of the whole problem with this whole process is insurance companies won't give me quotes this far out from the renewal. But now we generally can get them by the end of July.
Yeah,
So-
and always we're bumping that right up.
Right,
against
so
our budget.
we can generally finalize those numbers and tweak the budget before the board approves it in August. But yeah, that's, right now it's all just guesswork and, JA Benefits is saying, expect the, if you're gonna stay, with the same policy, expect the same increase you've gotten in the past few years, which has been in the 13% range.
This is for anybody that works 23 hours or more a week, right? Yes, I know. But how many total people?
Well,
And
this-
adding the new position. Losing one position. but
Losing
adding
one, adding, I think that'll get us to 29. 29 total, 25 of which would be eligible for benefits. Because we have the 4 relief operator positions. So it's just too small of a pool.
Right now,
So remember, I just have to go back.
oh, I should say, right now, the county provides $1,000. Employee benefits. And I don't know if the city doesn't.
Well, it's like we've identified a couple of different HSA options that based on our current policy or data look doable. And so we're gonna request quotes on those and you know, and again, I'm looking at, we have $425,000 budgeted. So if we can do one of those policies and it all works at $400,000, then we can put $1,000 in everybody's account.
But just from your math, we have 3 additional employees coming up, right?
Well, yeah, well,
And-
that's what we were just doing. That will, I think we'll be at 25 people that are eligible, but not everybody takes it. Some people are on their spouses.
Yeah.
Some are on Medicare. Some of our outside operators are retirees that are supplementing income and stuff. And so I think we have 22 employees that currently have health insurance through us.
I was just thinking, so we did 13% increase, which is what state benefits recommended. And so you're thinking the ratio of employees that actually sign up for
Well,
the
yeah.
district self-insurance will be better.
Well, but my example is that the HSA option came in at $400,000. That gives us in the budget $25,000 excess. 25 people enrolled, we can seed everybody's HSA. So that's one of my main criteria for making that switch is being able to seed it with something and not $50. Yes.
We had not $50.
Well, I don't have any other questions.
So
But we do
I
still,
wanted to go back and look at summary again. Yes, this is, I just have to hide some stuff here. Probably not the page, but the font I can look at.
Which,
I'm-
in the summary.
I'm looking at a spreadsheet called summary. And it,
I think that's page 21 of the packet. Wait, I'm sorry, 20 of the packet.
and what I was looking at was revenue versus expenses. So in a few years, our expenses were more than our revenue. In a few budget years, our expenses were more than our revenue. Okay, for example, look at 2019.
Well, that's the budget.
Budget versus
The
actual.
2019 actual was 166,000.
No,
Oh,
no.
you're looking at the budget.
I'm just looking at the budget,
Okay.
I'm looking at approvals, and this is what DLGF is gonna look at, they're not gonna look at actuals.
And some of that is like 2019.
But we've covered it okay, because the actuals have always been less.
Right, well, 2019 had an extra $100,000 in it at the board's request because we were waiting on those Kessler studies.
Yeah,
And we wanted funds available. If the Kessler study came back and said, you got to go do this, go do it. So we wanted to make sure we had money to go do that stuff. the 20 budget, I'd have to go back and look why that
Why,
was
yeah.
such a
I don't
deficit.
remember, but it may have been the same thing, Tom.
It could have been.
That I'm thinking, let's just continue to keep this capital outlay business. But now looking at the amount of capital outlays in 20s, that wasn't much. But only in 2019. I don't know why 20 was. I have no idea.
I'm gonna have to go look at that too, because now that you got me looking at that, column E, the 2020 actual, there is no way we only spent $600,000 in personnel services that year. I think those are the 6-month figures that didn't get updated to the year-end figures.
Okay, so, well, when you find out why we,
Over 1.5 million. For budgeting.
I need to go because that's sometimes,
it's curiosity more than.
but that sometimes happens because I add columns in for the new year's, delete the oldest ones off, and sometimes everything doesn't shift over and get updated.
Are we gonna do finish?
No, I need to go
over here.
I think we're about done.
Otherwise, I'll ask for a recess for 2 minutes. but I go for-
No, you
Oh,
know,
you parked, no, I think.
I didn't even take time to go park at the block.
I just, you know, with the budgetary status is in there as well as on the comm sheet, but that, for me, doing it through May is just a hard
Yeah.
comparison to draw. Next month is when that'll mean something, and then the debt service budget's in there. That's based on what we're paying. That is what it is,
They're not even worth.
and we're not requesting anything out of the capital improvement fund.
Yeah.
So.
That should cause a problem.
So I'm ready to wrap up. Are you?
Yes.
Okay. So let us adjourn this meeting and look forward to our board meeting on Thursday. Let's start with this budget, huh?
Thank you, and
Corey?
thank you, and sorry for the confusion on.
I apologize.